Well, the objective of this video tutorial is to provide the information regarding oil spills in the Nigeria to identify the health effects after a couple of years of spillage, to know about the environmental and the biological damage that has happened, and the lawsuits which were applied over there for the prevention of the future. Well, the contents of this video are history of the production of oil, the damage caused by them, the reasons behind this much prevalence, the attempts those were made to clear it, and the lawsuit. Well, the history of the oil production in Nigeria starts back in 1950s, where in 1956 the oil was discovered from the coastal regions of the Nigeria, majorly in the Niger Delta region. Well, in 1970s, the Nigeria joined the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, also named as OPEC. In the 1970s, they also began to drill the oil, and in the late part of 1970s, the oil production was that much increased that so many multinational corporations and the petrochemical industries and many companies, they were attracted in the Nigeria for the manufacture and production of the oil for a better profit. Following which, in 1971, the Nigerian National Oil Corporation was founded, which handled all these things. Well, in 1980s, due to global recession, there was huge drop in the profits, so the production was decreased. But later on in the millennium year, the 2000, the GDP. Well, the Nigeria is the largest oil producer in the Africa and the 11th largest producer of crude oil in the world. In Nigeria, most of the petroleum production occurs in the Niger Delta region, as I said. Almost half of the production occurs over there. Nigeria also flares the second largest amount of natural gas in the world, second after the Russia, and also accounts for the 10% of the total amount flared globally. In general, the oil which spills and the pollution which occurs that can influence the human health in two pathways. One, direct exposure to the population who are localites and those who are involved in the production and manufacture of this oil. Those get the direct contact and get the systemic toxicity, and these chemicals like paraphenols and volatile benzene which are shredded from the manufacturing process affects their health. Second is from the indirect pathway, which is moreoverly the psychological pathway. Those who have the location and those who live around these areas and families of those persons who are involved in the manufacture process, they get risks, worries, annoyance, anxiety, depression, and sometimes chronic stress that affects the sequel, and poor health outcome occurs. When the oil this much is manufactured, it is transported across the countries, and the Nigeria is famous for the palm leaves, palm grains. So the pipelines which are made, they have sharp twists, tunnels, and there are so many twists in there, so there is more chances of leakage in there. So the causes for the spillage is the pipeline corrosion, poor maintenance of the infrastructure, spills or leaks at the wellheads, human errors, oil thieving, and the intentional vandalism. One report has estimated that about 9 to 13 million barrels over past 15 years has been spilled, which accounts for roughly about 1.5 million tons per year. Well, the most known cause for this spillage is unknown, but it is also said that the third party activities, the companies involved in the maintenance and the mechanical failure accounts for about 50% of the spillage of this oil. Well, this spilled oil, this affects the surface water as well as the groundwater, the ambient air, and the crops which are harnessed in their surrounding farms. which gets affected by the hydrocarbons and known carcinogens like polycystic aromatic hydrocarbons and benzoxypyrin, which ultimately is going to affect the people living in the settled areas. Well, most of the studies done in this region are between the humans and the harsh relationship between the companies who manufacture oil over there. People living over there claim that the companies come here, produce oil, take away the oil, and just leave away them with these polluted rivers, polluted places, polluted air. Well, these spills have a catastrophic impact on many communities because of the poverty, the population over there, they just rely on the farming and the fishing. The sole water source for them is the rivers adjacent to there, and they are being polluted by these companies and this oil spillage. Adding to that, the noise, odor, heat, continuous night lighting, black smoke, all this instilled, they increase the emission and overall just impact the health of the population. Well, why this much big impact? Why this much big prevalence? Is because in this Niger Delta region, about 80% of the population they live in the 50-meter of the radius of the visible oil pollution area, and about 75% of the people they live adjacent to the gas flaring facilities. If we count the exposure, about 95% of the people they get exposed to this oil population more than 5 times a month, and almost all the population in this region they drink the water which is contaminated with this oil. So this way the exposure is too high. Well, in the late 2002s, the world came to know about the disaster, and so many agencies, health companies, and voluntary agencies, they just came here to help, and the issue was made global, and whole world came to know about this disaster. So many attempts were made to clear this oil which was polluting the areas in the Nigeria, especially in the Niger Delta, and the starting of the cleaning of the rivers and the roads, better ways to transport the oil, how to prevent the population from being exposed to the oil was done. And all those companies who were responsible for this pillage, they were tend to lie and punish. To combat this situation, in 2006, the National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency Act was made, which is currently amended in 2018, under which any individual who is involved in such kind of practice or who is involved in directly or indirectly in this creation of oil pollution in an area is liable to fine of 5 lakh Nigerian dollars, and any corporates or industries which are involved in such an act are liable for 2 million of Nigerian dollars. So one and all the attempts are made to combat this situation, but after all these things are in the hands of the local population that how they combat. So the summary of whole this video tutorial is Niger Delta, the highest oil production site in Nigeria, how it attracted the international agencies, formation of many industries, so much money, production of tons of oils and gas, which led to spillage of tons of the same, while transportation across the country is damage to the biological and environmental properties, loss of life, loss of money, and emergence of lawsuits. Thank you.